can you create the perfect meeting agenda? Have you ever been to meetings where you got a kind of a very vague or no agenda at all, and basically had no idea what to expect? Maybe there was a main topic, a main headline, but the likelihood that you had no idea what's going to happen was actually very big, let alone prepare anything, because you can't if you don't really have an agenda. I actually used to work in a number of organizations, smaller, bigger organizations, and the bigger the organizations, I've noticed, the more meetings you tend to have. So I found myself in the same situation. No agenda, very vague, just a main topic. So I got those invitations, and even worse, I initiated those kind of meetings with a very, very unclear agenda. So, and who dares not to attend a meeting if the boss is inviting you to it? Oh, I definitely didn't. And I actually haven't paid the price. I attended lots of meetings where I couldn't contribute anything, where I didn't take anything away, so it consumed a lot of time with basically no or little result. So over the time, eventually I started my own business. I realized, time's getting even scarcer. So how can I actually change it? And it turned out that the agenda is actually a key to a good meeting, besides the length, but we're talking about the agenda today. So let's talk a second about meetings generally. So you could say it's a relict out of old times. Why should we actually still meet, right? We've got email, we've got Slack, we've got Facebook, we've got Messenger, CRM tools, Skype, you name it. And I guess you're working with a fair amount of these kind of tools. So why actually meetings? In actual fact, Atlassian, it's a manufacturer of software, project management software, made a study. On average, the knowledge worker in a big organization spends time or is attending 62 meetings a month. Can you imagine that? 62 meetings. You don't? Well, looking at 20 working days a month, that is about like 3 meetings a day. Is that kind of realistic? I guess so, right? And 31 hours, again, according to this study, are spent in unproductive meetings a month. That is quite a lot. It's basically almost a working week spent in unproductive meetings. So, to put it plainly, I know a lot of people who say, I don't want to attend any meetings. They're useless, or they're actually at least perceived as such. And another couple of figures out of this study is 90% of all people actually admit to daydreaming. You're sitting in this meeting, maybe this particular topic is not of that high interest to you, and suddenly your thoughts go to, I don't know, what could I have for dinner today? Or, oh, I need to remember to call the plumber tonight. And as we all know, we can't, think of something actively and listen actively. So, this you might wonder if you really wasting your time here. 70% of all meeting participants actually admit to working. Do you bring your laptop into the meeting, or your pad or whatever, and typing away? Again, the same result. If you're working on something, you're definitely not listening. So why are you actually in the meetings? And 40% of these people asserted the meetings as number one time waster in their working life. Well, take that, Facebook, right? Finally, there are actually billions, I dare say billions of dollars, or whatever currency you're working around, spent in ineffective meetings. However, I just asked before, why should we have meetings in our modern times? Meetings actually fulfill a deep human need. We are social beings. So just look at history. People have always met up physically met up in a place, in a room. Look at clubs, associations. You meet up in smaller or in larger groups on a regular basis. It's just a basic human need. And in actual fact, without meetings, the attachment to an organization in your, you work for, would be actually rather small. Have you ever worked for a company out of a virtual a home office, for example? Hardly ever met with the people per se, and then you know what I'm talking about, right? You need to have these physical meetings. So, not useless. Hence, how can we improve them? So, what is actually? How can you create a really great agenda as a key to your meetings? So, number one is, make the agenda very concrete. Don't be fluffy, right? Don't put marketing budget as a topic on your agenda, but maybe discuss the budget for the marketing budget Q2 for 3 areas, customer events, online activities, and SEO. That is very precise, very clear. Number 2, make clear what you expect, right? If you invite people, don't just give them a very clear indication of the topic per se, but tell them what you want. What do you want to achieve? What should be the outcome? Is it a topic for discussion? Is there anything that needs to be decided upon? Or is it actually just plainly for information purposes? So let's go through them just very briefly. If you have a meeting point that's only for information, purely factual information, actually save the time, put the information in a document and send it via email, right? If the information, however, is presented, if the information presented has an impact on the people in the room, right? Maybe it is, a report that has an influence on the people and how they work in future, then it is definitely necessary or vital to put that in the framework of a meeting. Discussion, right? Everything basically that's new ought to be discussed. It could be a new strategy, it could be new policies, it could be a new product. So I guess you get the point. So you want people to contribute based on their knowledge and their experience, and make that clear to the participants. That actually helps them a great deal to actually prepare. And decision, how shall we do something? What can each participant contribute? Let's say there is, this new event, and you want to know from people, how can we do it? What part can you overtake? What is going to be the next step? So the expected outcome is taking decisions on these points. Maybe the location, maybe the cost, maybe the content, so that you can make very clear in your meeting agenda. So number 4, to creating your great agenda, put the most important topic of the whole meeting at the top. Why is that? Our attention span is limited, right? On average, we talk about 15 to 20 minutes that we can really focus and listen to what somebody's telling, or a discussion around, and that is in one go. I'm not saying you're finished after 20 minutes, but you need a bit of a break. Your brain needs a bit of a breather. So, and it flakes, clearly. So, put it on top of the list. Make sure that you got the people's attention, because this is what you really want to, to get done during this meeting. Number 5. Remember, when you put together an agenda, there might be topics that unite people, right? And there might be topics on the other side that divide people, right? Let's take a group of sales managers, right? Sales managers are from a company coming together, with the meeting with their sales director. This sales director has the idea of, or the main purpose here is to divide, or one of the agenda items is to divide the sales region, or organize them in a new way, in a different way. So I guess you can imagine, that this is change. This is doing something different. Maybe taking customers away from one, giving it to the other person. Pushing maybe some of the people outside of their comfort zone. So this might actually divide people, right? They might fight for their customers. They might, fight for or defend their territory. Don't put that at the beginning, and start on a good note. This could, for example, to spin on this example, it could be an overview. What's happening in our sales? Where are we? Put the more critical topic in the middle, and go out of the meeting with something that unites again. Maybe if you have this new strategy in terms of sales, you want to communicate that to everybody, and that relates to all the sales managers again in the group. Last but not least, communicate the finish time. Most of meetings, when you're invited to meetings, they have a start time. Not always do they have an end time. So more than 1.5 hours are hardly effective. I told you just about this attention span of like 20 minutes. However, it's pretty unrealistic that a meeting can be done in 20 minutes, or half an hour would probably be rather the most effective length of a meeting. But out of experience, it's rather unrealistic. It also depends on the number of people in the meeting. So keep it as short as you can. Communicate the end, and incorporate some breaks into your agenda. Actually. Last but not least, don't send the agenda out too early. Some people might be not perfectly organized, and they lose it. So they don't just don't find the agenda anymore. Have you ever tried to look for an email, particularly in Outlook? Happens to me all the time. I can't remember what the headline was, how the mail was called, so to say. I just know it's from John, right? John sends me 10 emails a day. Where was this meeting agenda? So just send it out a couple of days, 2 to 3 days in advance, and that should suffice for the people to be able to actually properly prepare for a meeting. So make the agenda concrete, not fluffy at all. Make clear what you expect. Put the most important agenda items at the top. Remember to start to put an agenda item on the top that unites people. End the meeting on a good note, something that unites people. And last but not least, define what's the end time of the meeting. So never ever actually put the topic any other business on the agenda. This is an open invitation to waste time. That does not mean you have to exclude leaving, that does not exclude leaving some time for unstructured time, but plan that in, while talking about the individual agenda items in a controlled manner. So, here's the thing to do for you. Try it out next time you plan a meeting. Try to consider those 5 topics while putting together your agenda. If you plan a meeting, and if you're invited to one, and you get one of these really fluffy agendas, go back to the initiator. Ask, can you be a bit clearer? What exactly do you expect as an outcome for this meeting? What do you expect me to contribute? This might lead to better agendas, to better meetings, and basically to clearer results in the end. Well, thank you very much for watching this. I hope you all have better meetings in the future. I hope to see you again. Until then, stay inspired.